Hello and welcome back to another episode of the EFL Fantasy Podcast. My name is Jamie.
My name is Angus.
My name is Dan.
And it's lovely to have you back, Angus. How was your holiday?
It was very nice, and I got to watch Christian Benteke, which is the main thing, really.
I quite enjoyed you being away because it was quite fun to watch people scampering around trying to find injury news, which they hadn't realised how difficult it is actually to get. So that was quite amusing, but it's good to have you back. For the listeners, apologies for the delay in recording. We are recording this on Thursday night at nearly 10 o'clock due to shitloads of technical issues. But yeah, life got in the way on a couple of days. We did try to go on Sunday, but here we are on Thursday. We will be back to normal on Sunday night. Right, this episode then, guys, we'll go through our scores. We're going to go through the key points, just like me and Dan did last week, and same as the Super League pod. We've got 5 key talking points that we're going to go through, and then we'll go through all the Twitter questions. As said before on the last podcast, any feedback on the new format is much appreciated. As far as we could tell so far, people prefer this format, and so do we. So that's a win-win. And also make sure you like and subscribe. Big shout outs to AD and Darren, who quote tweeted the podcast last week. Much appreciated, guys. Loved that. My 2 favourite listeners. But yeah, let's get straight into it then. Who wants to go first? Dan, Angus?
I don't mind, I'll go first. I didn't do very well. We got 53 points. I took out Armstrong, so naturally scored, and I brought in Godden. I really struggled with captaincy. I could have captained about 6 different players. I ended up on Clark, captain for 10 points, vice captain Godden for 3. Sarah 6, Dewsbury Hall 7, Piero 9, Broadhead 10, and then that was basically I got a couple of frees from Potts and Somerville, -1 from Stacey in that ridiculous 6-2 game, and I went down to 160th, so about a 70 place red arrow, which isn't ideal, but I think more people played boosts than I thought they would as well. So not having a good game week mixed in with not playing a boost. Yeah, probably my biggest red arrow of the season, I think.
Okay. Angus?
Yeah, so my team was just falling apart in terms of the injuries I had. Although one of them, Key, turned out not to be injured, but I wasn't to know that. I think I was up to 4 or 5 injuries and a player not playing. So I overhauled into 57 points, which was actually a red arrow, which was great. Because part of the reason I overhauled was because I was down at like 900th and I got a red arrow. I had Hladky in goal for 2. I had one of my successes was bringing in Cody Drame, who got me 9. Ailing 1. Hume 4. Dembele 1. Somerville 3, Dewsbury Hall 7. I captained Clark, and then I had Rutter for 7, Godden vice captain for 3, and Broadhead for 10. I managed to bench Fleming for his missed penalty,
Nice.
and bench Giannoulis for his -1. So that was the real success for my team this week.
Right. I played my first boost this week, so I got 90 on triple. 2 for Hladky, Ailing 1, Manning 1, Walker Peters 1. Defenders in this game can get in the bin, honestly. I am fed up of them. Swift 1, Rowe 2, Sarah 6. Hardy I brought in for Armstrong, so that did actually go well. I think Armstrong scored 7, maybe, I think it was. Hardy got me 10 with his to assist, and then my plays on triple were Clark, who only got me 15, Dewsbury Hall 21, and Broadhead for 30. So, is it a bit underwhelming, I'd probably say. I mean, it was a good week to play it in terms of people getting low scores, so my score's obviously a lot better. But I think on triple triple, I'd like a bit more. But in 2 weeks now, I've gone.
69. I got 69 when I played my triple triple.
Oh, so
Uh,
I can't really complain then, can I? I've gone from like 600 odd to 137th in 2 weeks, so it just shows 2 good weeks and you're right back in the game. So yeah, I'm happy with that. Pod team Angus, we missed this last week. I hadn't got a clue how we'd gone on.
so in game week 8, we got 70 -4.
Nice.
We had Rushworth in goal for 6, Potts 3, Ailing 1, Hume 4, Clark captain for 10, Dewsbury Hall 7, Sarah 6, Somerville 3. We vice captained Piero for 13, Armstrong 7, and Broadhead 10. So as I say, 70 -4. I think that meant we came second.
Ooh. I thought we were going to win that with that score. Who won?
The community team, they got 70.
Joke. Right, brilliant then. Right, let's get into the key talking points then. Dan, come to you first. What would you like to talk about?
Well, and talk about the lineups before the top. So, but
That is a good one, Dan.
we're
Yeah,
gonna
forgot about
do.
that.
Yeah, we're gonna do like the key fantasy lineup news each week. It might not always be like all 24 teams. It might be like 10. It all depends on what we get. So Birmingham, Keshi Anderson went off injured. Dembele was back on the bench. Ipswich, Davis and Broadhead both started. Blackburn, Rankin Costello is still on the bench. One of their main signings during the window did start. Sigurdsson started and scored. Hedges is injured long term. Leeds, Ayling was benched. James and Somerville played on the wings, and Nonto obviously missed out through injury. Jamal Lewis, he exists. He started for Watford.
I missed that, you know.
Uh,
I actually missed that.
for Leicester, Dewsbury Hall returned. Doyle's injured now, though. For Borough, Lewis O'Brien played left back and they won. So read what we'll see what that meant. Southampton, Manning bench. Walker Peters played left back. Holgate played right back, and Adam Armstrong played right wing. Plymouth changed to a back three. Mumba, which meant Mumba played left wing back. They also brought in back all the players that they'd left out. I think it was like 7 changes, so all the key players came back. Norwich had a front four of Fashnacht, Rowe, Joe Hung, and Ida as the 9. Just to note, signs one of their signings in pre-season played in the League Cup yesterday, so is available. For Preston, Brady played left wing back. Frocchio Yankson was still on the bench. Swansea, back four. Key played right back. Jamal Lowe played as a 9. West Brom, Furlong, Swift and Wallace benched. Hull, Twine and Delap benched. Sunderland, Roberts was still on the bench. For Cardiff, Ramsey was not in the squad. Coventry, Sakamoto played right wing back. Van Eyck's out long term. Ari played the 10. And just as we mentioned last week, Jamie Palmer is injured. Huddersfield, although not really fantasy relevant, Moore's first lineup was 3-5-2. That's everything.
Must say, Dan, that is a fantastic segment. It is actually really useful because I can never be bothered to look through everything, so you're just basically feeding me what I need to know. But it is really useful, like in terms of if players coming back from injury, coming back into the team, players getting dropped, changes of formation or whatsoever. So yeah, really useful, and I think the listeners will really appreciate that. So instead of coming to you first now, Dan, I'll go to Angus.
Yeah, so the first thing I'm going to talk about, because I think it's what a lot of people are trying to work out at the moment, actually, best team, but who do we get from them, is Leicester. So obviously everyone's sort of been on Dewsbury Hall. I think quite a few people have been on Mavadidi, but a lot of people are trying to work out the Leicester coverage. And so I just wanted to have a bit of a deeper dive into them. So I've looked into lots of things, including minutes played, who's scoring, who's creating the chances, all sorts, to try and help answer. And one of the things I will say is, based on what I've looked at so far, it is really unfortunate that Callum Doyle got injured. So in terms of games played, so there's only 3 players that have actually played, that have started every game for Leicester. And they are Doyle, Vestergaard and Winks. Doyle is obviously injured long term, and Cody played in 90 minutes in the League Cup. And of the 2 centre-backs, in terms of Vestergaard and Fass, you would assume he's going to come back in for Vestergaard. So that doesn't necessarily help. But in terms of the ones that have started 7, you've got Dewsbury Hall and Mavadidi, and they were both brought on in the game they didn't start. Fass, who is only available for 7 games and has played every minute of those 7 games. Hermansen, same thing. He obviously had the 1 game he missed through injury. And Pereira, who missed a game, has played almost every minute, the 7 he's been available for. And then if you go down to 6 in terms of starts, all you're adding is Ndidi. And then I just had an interesting note of those who started 5. One, you've got McAteer, but he's played in 6 games total, but it's not a lot of minutes in there. So he's sort of, it seems like a lower number, but I think if you're looking at minutes, it doesn't look as impressive. But he started most of those games that he's been available for. So that is one to watch, I think. And then Iheanacho has started 5 games, came on in the 3 he didn't start, but has played fewer minutes than Jamie Vardy, who's only started 3 games. And in terms of if you wanted to work out a split of who's more likely to play or play more minutes, Iheanacho's played 359 total minutes. Vardy has played 361.
Wow.
So it is almost literally a 50-50 split. So yeah, so that was just sort of to give a best idea. It might be a little bit sort of a mess, but I think one of the things I'm going to say from a lot of these stats is those guys that have missed one start, Dewsbury Hall, Mavadidi, Pereira and Fass are probably where you're looking at this point. Although just to dive into a few of the stats, so you've got the goals, just as a basic thing. McAteer has 4. Dewsbury Hall, Mavadidi and Vardy have 2, and Ndidi, Iheanacho, Cassidy and Marçal have 1. Assists, Dewsbury Hall has 3, Mavadidi has 2, Vardy, Iheanacho, Doyle and Pratt have 1. In terms of XG, Mavadidi is top for the team with 2.8, McAteer just behind on 2.5, and then you have Iheanacho, Dewsbury Hall, Vardy, and then Ndidi. XA, Dewsbury Hall is top by quite a way on this team. So for the reference in terms of some of these numbers I mentioned, these are all taken from FOTMob. So he has 2.8 XA, sorry. The next one in terms of XA is 1.0. So he, in terms of creative numbers, he leads the team by quite a long way. Mavadidi has 1.0, and also the new winger Fatawu has 1.0 XA as well. Which, bear in mind, he's got the same sort of that with Mavadidi. He's played a total of 146 minutes. I'll talk about him a bit because he looks very interesting, albeit in a very small sample size. Big chances created. You've got Dewsbury Hall on 6. Fatawu has 4. in that short period of time. Mavididi, Iheanacho have 2. Pratt, Pereira, and Winks have 1. In terms of the Gaffr points, I did try and add up the bonus. I might have got this wrong. So I was trying to go through each game and add it up, but it will sort of explain that it gets slim after Dewsbury Hall and Mavididi. Dewsbury Hall, by my rough maths, has 25 bonus points. Mavididi has 15. The next highest is Vardy on 7. Doyle on 6 is obviously injured. No one else has more than 5. No one else has 5. Everyone else is less than 5 bonus points for Leicester. And in the last 3 games, there was a lot of rotation for the Norwich game. So a lot of people, when I was sort of looking at their starts, it was, a lot of them, it was 1 start against Norwich. So I think the interesting thing when they rotated, if you take out the rotated Norwich game, you've got 2 starts for Vardy, for example, which is potentially interesting there. You've got 2 starts, obviously, for Dewsbury Hall, 2 starts for Ndidi, and obviously Winks and Mavididi started all 3. You also got 2 starts, that means, for Pereira. So in terms of the picks, in terms of what that all shows, I think the big thing for me is Dewsbury Hall, obviously, but it's worth mentioning. He's either top or second in basically every stat you can come up with for them in terms of sort of the attack. And if it's not him for most of them, it's Mavididi. So I think he's one to mention. Unfortunately, I was going to say Vestergaard at 5.5 looks a nice way into this defence. But of course, with Cody coming back, as well as the uncertainty over what they do with Doyle injured, I don't think you can go with him at this point. Fass and Pereira are probably nailed. And the thing with them is they're on the same number of points. So while you think there might be some sort of advantage to Pereira, there's not. He's doing sort of nothing in terms of attacking numbers wise. So that's worth bearing in mind with them in terms of any potential saving, is that there's no real difference between them. Differential pick I had just to throw out there. I know you guys mentioned him, and I mentioned him there, is McAteer. As I said, he's been available for 6 games. He started 5 of them, and he's got 4 goals. The sort of underlying numbers aren't there, but he does have 4 goals, and he could be a cheap way into that attack. But I've also got one to watch. I mentioned him was Fatawu. I'm just going to double.
Or...
Yes.
Okay,
so he's got 3 different names.
Yeah.
So I was going to double check what he is on the site, which is Fatawu Isahaku. He's played only 146 minutes, but in that time, he was obviously creating chances. There was the 4 big chances created, despite the fact he's only played that many minutes. And if you look at some of his per 90 stats, the problem with that is with that few minutes, it sort of becomes very distorted. But he had 3.1 shots per 90, 5.0 successful dribbles per 90, and 2.5 tackles per 90. So obviously these per 90 stats aren't necessarily useful, but it was difficult with him because of how few minutes he's played. But just being that involved in a variety of ways in the few minutes he's played made me think that he could be one to keep an eye on, particularly if he gets more minutes.
Yeah, definitely. Any more?
I think that's everything. I'm not sure how much that's helped, but hopefully it gives a bit of context around Leicester and whether they're actually sort of worthwhile.
What's your reaction, Dan?
I think we've known for some time that Dewsbury Hall was one of the best players in the game. I brought in Mavididi at the start and then got rid, and then he's done quite well the last couple of weeks. So I'm not ruling out going back there. I'm intrigued to see what happens with Doyle out. Does James Justin go in there or something like that? McAteer is too much of a worry for me, rotation wise, but
You're
we
boring.
we
You are,
did
Dan.
like him. Well, yeah. Yeah, it's a shame about the strikers though, but I wonder if you will be able to work out who starts if there does become a pattern, and then you might be able to maybe punt if you're playing a boost on one of them.
Well, there is a pattern. They both basically played the same amount of minutes, so
Yeah.
it doesn't matter which one starts. They're coming off anyway, so that's really annoying. I think from my point of view of Leicester, it's weird because they're top of the league. In my opinion, they're the best team in the league. So you'd normally end up on triple, wouldn't you? But I just don't think defensively. Well, I don't think any defenders are doing anything to interest me other than Davies. But um, you'd normally go to Pereira, but with him playing this daft inverting thing, which is really getting on my tits now. That is that inverted right back role. Everyone is just doing it now, and it's really frustrating. But yeah, so he's obviously not going to get the attacking threat, is he?
I haven't
No,
seen Stoke
there's
trying
basically nothing.
inverted right backs.
Dan, do you even think that we've got players capable of doing that?
Stoke are playing
Hoover
inverted
tried.
players.
Everyone had the pleasure of seeing them on Sky on Sunday, and that was not a pleasant watch. If you like watching good football, Hull, I'll give them credit; they were
Well
pretty
done,
good.
man.
But no, Leicester, I don't know where I'd go. I think I'm more because I'm that kind of manager. I get bored and I like doing mad things. I'd like to take a punt, but no, there's nothing there that appeals to me. Are any of them on your radar over the next few weeks?
I think Mavididi. I mean, I obviously sold him, but I think the way he's played since, and just looking into this, it was like the clear second option is Mavididi. He's only got 9 points less than Dewsbury Hall as well. So he's clearly performing well. McAteer is tempting. McAteer is tempting.
It's a fun one. It's definitely one that John Jacobson's definitely going to do this weekend. I can't wait to see that in Slack where he's brought him in and he's put some kind of captaincy on him. I think with me, Mavididi, as you know, I'm not a stats person. I don't really understand a lot of them. I don't want to understand a lot of them. But when you watch him, he's very, I would say, frustrating. He does get in a lot of opportunities, doesn't he? So, yes, I think if you watch him, he'll frustrate you, but I think he will reward you as well. Anything else on Leicester before we move on?
I think defensively, if you want cover, you are purely going there because of their defensive record. I think that's the summary on the defenders. So
you pay more for clean sheets.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. So it's like, I mean, obviously at the moment with a lot of defenders frustrating, that might be something that you go for just to go and get the clean sheet points. But it's there's very little sort of attacking data from any of them. So it depends the effect when Cody comes in, but maybe that's something that people might want to look at. But it's basically just go for the cheapest starter with their defenders.
Okay. Dan, your first point.
I think we have to talk about Norwich, don't we? Absolutely bonkers result against Plymouth. I've got three. How many of them do you have? I've got
Two.
Stacey, Rowe, and Sarah.
Rowe and Sarah for me.
Just Giannoulis.
Who did you have before you revealed?
Rowe and Sarah.
That's quite after Dan's gone. It's quite interesting you haven't got Sarah, but I'll come back to that after. Carry on, Dan.
Yeah, so the first four games they started really well. They got 10 points and they were scoring freely, and it looked like they were probably the best team in the league. But they've recently had a couple of injuries. Sargent's been out since the Huddersfield win, and more recently Barnes has been out. And we saw last year how well Barnes can do at Burnley, just even if he's not involved as scoring goals or assists, just his all-round play is still quite good, and it helps the players around him. Interesting, since Sargent hasn't been in the team, they've only won one game. That was against Stoke,
Of course it was.
which the data showed it was pretty even. Um, they they lost to Rotherham, where the data showed that they should have won. They then played Leicester, who Leicester deserved to win, but this is a Leicester side that didn't have Dewsbury Hall, and they changed their team. They were playing Chowdhury at right back, so um, it wasn't like Leicester's first team. And then they've obviously gone at the weekend to Plymouth and got absolutely hammered. And it's not the first time we've seen Norwich concede a lot of chances. They had that crazy 4-4 with Southampton early on in the season, and they're actually one of the worst teams for XG conceded. They're the sixth worst. They conceded 13 worth of XG. So I've got Stacey, and I was looking back over its previous scores, apart from when he scored in, I think, game week 7, when he had 15 and I played him. He hadn't got over 6 points, and a lot of his scores are actually 1 or 2, or mainly because he'd get booked or things like that. So um, Stacey is someone who I'm thinking of maybe losing over the next couple of weeks. Um, what do you guys think about them defensively, Angus? You've got Giannoulis. Are you are you happy with that, or?
I wish I'd looked at some of those numbers before I overhauled and included GW8.
To be fair, a lot of that XG, Plymouth done well and got over 2 XG, so it wasn't quite that bad. But yeah, I didn't realise it was quite as bad as what it was.
So feeling great about that.
I'd just
Yeah,
say,
so
like, you should feel lucky that you've got a playing defender who gets your points. Yeah, it might be negative, but he's playing.
But to be fair, I had to overhaul to get to playing defenders.
I don't know with Norwich. I've been stuck on Rowe and Sarah. I think I started with both of them. So I haven't really thought about adding. I know when. Did you bring in Stacey, or did you start with him, Dan?
I started with Stacey. He was very good in pre-season, and obviously him being an ex-Luton, I know how attacking he could be. But I think at the start, they were so good going forward, he wasn't picking up bonus. It didn't help he was getting booked. And now maybe they're struggling a bit defensively. Like I said, he's definitely close to maybe going. Um,
Oh.
with the other options, Sarah, we've seen ticking along. Um, I'm I'm not in a rush to get rid of Sarah, but I wonder if maybe going for a player with a higher upside could be more beneficial. And then Rowe, what did he get? 4 in 4 games at the
Yeah,
start
and
of the
then got an
season.
assist. I think it was wanted or something.
Yeah. And obviously he's cheap, so he's enabling you to do other things. But um, Hernandez is back. You've then got Signs, who they brought in the summer. He could easily come in for the side. So I wonder long term if Rowe just won't be as nailed as what he is now. Um,
I think with Rowe, it's
yeah,
interesting as well because even I know he had that hot spell at the beginning, but even if he wasn't, people weren't really bothered because he was everyone's fifth midfielder, wasn't he? Where now we're coming
yeah,
into game week 9, we're coming into the last 6 game weeks of the set. A lot of people have either got 1 or 2 boosts left. Midfield
yeah,
dynamos, if that's one of them, people will be looking for midfielders for that. And I've got him at the moment, and I couldn't play that boost. That's why I went triple this week, was because Rowe was one of the reasons really why. So he's interesting. It's now, do you move him on for a better midfielder, for that boost, or do you keep him? With Sarri, I think it's quite interesting, Angus. You haven't got him, where with me, I think he's a great long-term pick. He'll take over, where I can't really see him hauling much. Which, if you're going to play midfield dynamos, really you want someone who's got the ceiling to do that, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a tough call for me. There were a number of midfielders I wanted on the overhaul. I just decided that I was aware that Norwich had been struggling a little bit more, and so I thought that was one that I could potentially take on. At times, it will probably hurt me, but it just felt like one that, in the short term, I could take on.
Interesting. So, what do you recommend then, Dan?
So I think if you've got Sarah, I think if you've probably got other things you need to more pressing matters. I would keep Sarah. Stacey, he's nailed and he's going to play, but if you've got a luxury transfer, then I think Stacey can probably go. And Rowe, I think depends if you have played midfield dynamos. If you play midfield dynamos, I think you can afford to wait it out. If not, maybe you have to look maybe upgrading it to maybe in that 6 million region. There's a lot of players in there that if you're punting, you can just punt on one game week.
I think if you've already played midfield dynamos, I think it's a no-brainer to keep Rowe.
Yeah,
and so he's the best
I agree.
fifth midfielder really in the game, isn't he? So he could sit there. But yeah, Norwich are interesting while they started. But I'm just looking at the fixtures now. Birmingham at home this weekend, Swansea away, which by their form, other than the Sheffield Wednesday game, is a good fixture really. Coventry away, but then it's Leeds at home, Middlesbrough at home, Sunderland away. So it's quite a mixed bag of fixtures, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Birmingham game not necessarily be the easiest one. The Swansea one is who knows by the time it gets to that one whether like how Swansea will look, based on each game and each passing sort of injury and. But yeah, then it gets a little bit tougher. Someone like Sarah should theoretically be good, but how it sort of balances out, it remains to be seen, I think.
Anything else on Norwich then before we move on?
No, I think we can move on.
Right, we're going to come back to you, Angus, then for your second and final key talking points.
Yes, so after sort of... See, this is the key with not doing the injury news. I wasn't aware of this until I saw it. In commemoration of Ben Pearson becoming the first player to serve a suspension for 5 yellow cards this season, I thought I would talk a little bit about some players who are in that sort of range. So there you go, Jamie. There's a positive for Stoke. The first team to have something this season.
Which we something. He then got booked. He obviously missed the whole game. He played against Bournemouth last night and got beaten in that as well. He's an idiot. He is an idiot.
So congratulations to Ben Pearson. So there are 2 other players who will actually be suspended this weekend who picked up their 5th bookings of the season. Jacob Greaves and Sam Morsey. If anyone has Jacob Greaves or Sam Morsey, I probably have more questions about your team than the impact of that on your team. You've got a few players sitting there on 4, which is just, it feels like the sort of time to start checking in on this sort of thing.
You're going to start listing all my players or something now, aren't you? They're all going to get suspended this weekend.
No, I promise you I'm not. Given the players on 4, again, I know you have some strange players in your team or some bad players in your team, but I don't think you'll have many of these. So we've got Callum Patterson. I love that Callum Patterson has managed to get to 4 yellows.
You know what? I am not actually surprised. It was the first game of the season against Southampton. He got booked in that, didn't he? And I was just
Yeah.
thinking, oh, this guy, he's gonna get killed.
Harry Winks has 4.
Oh, okay.
Yannick Vestergaard has 4. Joel Latabodiere has 4. Josh Laurent has 4. Josh Windass has 4. Ryan Manning has 4. And Sam Field has 4.
Right, I just stop. Yeah, we all know what's happening this weekend, don't we? Let's be honest. I just can't sell him, Angus, because I've got that many issues with my defenders who don't play.
Ryan Manning booked giving away a penalty, fouling Luke Ayling. You heard it here first.
Yeah. It's quite annoying. But that is quite interesting, though, because I'll be honest, I still see it as like we're in game week 2 or 3, like we're very beginning of the season. I've not once thought about someone going to get suspended, despite a player from the team I watch every week getting suspended for some 5 yellow cards.
I also just had a few on 3 that I think might be noteworthy to some people while I remember. Che Adams, Ethan Ampadu, Kiernan Dewsbury Hall. Fladkey has managed to get 3 bookings. McFadzean and Wes Burns.
Well, I've got a couple of players that you've mentioned there, Angus. That's not ideal. Dewsbury Hall wouldn't bother me. If he got suspended, I wouldn't care, because literally, I'd like to believe every engaged manager has got Dewsbury Hall.
I'm a bit worried because if you're paying a boost, he's going to be involved in it at some point, probably.
Might be worth getting that boost out the way early, Dan, just before he gets suspended. And then do that and he'll get sent off instead of getting yellow cards. So,
yeah.
I think that's really interesting, Angus, and that is something. I think it might be worth just doing a little update every week on that. Those who were on 4, just were aware of that. Anything else regarding that?
I don't think so. I think that was it.
Perfect. And then Dan, your last one.
Yeah, I wanted to talk briefly about a few teams that are probably going a bit under the radar. The first one is Hull. Obviously, they're up to 4th in the league. We have mentioned a few times that we like some of their midfield, especially midfield options. Twine was obviously benched at the weekend. He's doing all right data wise, but I know he's not really set the world alight. But he's one of them you can look at. I suppose we've got to mention that Aaron Connolly. He keeps scoring, doesn't he? He's on. He's got five goals now.
Yeah.
No, I know a goal's a goal, Dan, and they all
Yeah.
count, and you get Gaffr points for him. Right, but I want to watch him on Sunday. He's crap. He is crap. Like, I don't think I could go there. I really don't think I could go there. He could carry on scoring. I just look at him like, I can't pick someone like that. And I don't mean to be harsh on him, because he's a professional footballer and I'm not. But you can't choose him. You can't over other strikers. You just can't. But carry on, Dan. Sorry, I'll end up getting off.
It's fine.
And before you do, actually, did you see the dickhead when he scored?
No.
Right in front of our fans, like giving it the large and then giving him the shush and stuff like that, which part of me did find amusing. I'd have definitely found it even more amusing if it was a different club. But yeah, that's probably why I'm not so keen on him, because I've got quite a lot of hatred for him at the moment. But yeah, carry on, Dan. Sorry.
I think we were all surprised when they signed Philogene Badace on a permanent, and he's played the last few games and he looked really good at the weekend. And Hull were quite hard to predict going into the pre-season. I'm a fan of Liam Rosenior. I think he done quite well without maybe getting as many points as they would have liked. But if you think back to the start of last season, they were basically conceding 2 or 3 goals a game, and he shored them up. Their transfer strategy was a lot more sensible. They recruited players that sort of know the championship, um, and I think it's starting to pay off. He's getting a tune out of Liam Delap. Um, I just think that they've sort of gone under the radar hole, and maybe in the next few weeks they've got Plymouth this week, which Plymouth are good going forward when they're at home, but it's at Hull City's ground, so they could score there. We've seen Ipswich have back and forth games, a 4-3, a 3-2, so maybe Hull can score against them. They've got Millwall away, but then they've also got Southampton as well. So I think if you're looking to maybe punt a midfielder, I think maybe Hull is a place where you could do. Um, my second team
Just before you go
is
on the second team,
Cardiff.
Dan, just a very
Yeah,
quick one on
sure.
that. Chris is back in the team now, isn't he? Is that a couple of games he started now?
Let me just have a
He
look.
started against
Yeah, he
Arsenal, and I
played.
think I saw him in midweek.
Yeah, he started against Leeds as well the week before. Yeah, I think he's back in. But I
That's
think they're
interesting.
they're 5-5 though, isn't they?
Yeah, he played well, but I think one who probably you won't think of, Sarri. He is an absolute baller for this league. He is way too good for this league, I think. Don't know what went on with him at Fulham, why it didn't work out there, because I know they paid a lot of money for him. But everything just goes through Sarri. An absolute pleasure to watch. So he's the one I'd keep an eye on, because sometimes he does well for bonus, doesn't he, on key passes.
Yeah, if he's on set
You're just
pieces,
not going
which
to
I
get
think
many
he is
goals,
at
are you?
some. No, you're not going to get many goals. No.
Just one thing on Christie.
Yeah.
Rossinia did say today that Coyle has been out but is back available now.
So that could change again.
Yeah.
Okay. Cardiff, Dan.
Yeah, so I think we've been definitely more impressed with them going forward this year. Unfortunately, we've mentioned Ramsey a few times, but he's injured at the minute. I actually wanted to talk about them defensively, um, and I think some of their data might be a tad misleading, which could be promising in the future in future game weeks. They're sort of mid-table for XG conceded, but I was looking back through the fixtures, and they've already played Leeds away, Leicester away,
Ipswich
Ipswich
away,
away,
yeah.
Sunderland away, and they're probably 4 of the top attacking sides. So I know when you were going through some of the data, defensive data, Perry NG was, can't remember the categories, but he was scoring high on some of them. So I wonder maybe Perry NG could be a decent shot, as we're struggling with defenders, and with those fixtures already out of the way, it might be an interesting one. They've got Rotherham this week, Middlesbrough and Watford. Watford haven't been great going forward. Blackburn away, but then they have Huddersfield, Bristol City, Stoke. So it's not terrible for a long for if you want to hold someone. Um, I don't know what you guys think about Cardiff defence.
I think NG is definitely someone to consider, at least.
Yeah.
He's going to be reliable for minutes as well, and see. I can't remember the stat either that he was in the top 5 for. He would have been I imagine big chance created or key passes maybe. Um,
Yeah.
but I think he's one I'd go there. I've had Ugbo since the beginning of the season, which he's finally getting sold this week, but he hasn't been looking good. But
You
Grant,
selling him ahead? You selling him instead ahead of Rotherham?
yeah.
You don't think he'll start?
Well, no, he's like you don't know if he's going to start. It's going to be him on my
Yeah.
team. I don't know any injury updates on that. Um, but then when he's not great. I think he had a good start to the season. I don't think that was ever going to last. But I'd be more interested in, Ramsey. I'd consider Grant definitely if he can get going, find some form. He's definitely one. But I think they're going to be fun. Like for example, the Sunderland game, they won 1-0. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting a 3-2 to Sunderland maybe or something like that. They quite high scoring. Um, but yeah, I think they're definitely worth looking at. There's no one standing out to me right now.
Yeah.
What about you, Angus?
I very nearly went with Jack Anik on the
Ah,
overhaul
yes.
because he seems to have got the place back. I think Cardiff fans were actually quite annoyed when Runnison came into the team because they didn't think Anik had done anything to be sort of left out. And he's come back in. I ended up going with the O'Leary from Bristol City instead, but Anik was very much a consideration for me as well.
That's a good shout. Any more, Dan?
That's a good segue, Angus, because my next team is Bristol City. Um, and it's interesting you went for O'Leary because they're actually doing well defensively, which might surprise a few people. Um, they're sixth or seventh in how well they're doing. Um, and it's interesting because for a long time we've just completely written off Bristol City. Um, but they're starting to be a bit more solid. Tanner, right back, Viner, and Naismith, who missed a large part of last season and the beginning of the season. Pring left back seems like a solid foundation. They've just played Leicester and only lost 1-0 to a penalty, um, although they did concede quite a lot of XG. Um, would you go for any defenders? Like they're all really cheap. I think they're all five, I think, or less.
Don't ask me
Um,
why I've got this, Dan, but I have actually got Bristol City's best players. I can see them just stats in front of me that I
yeah,
actually wrote down last night. Um, Nothing to do with this, but yeah, Pring, he's top for their key passes, 1.3 per game. But
yeah,
Naismith with two big chances created, I think those would be interesting. And obviously they played Leicester in 8, but Naismith in game week 7 and 6 did pick up 4 and 3 bonus points. He got the 3 bonus points with no attacking return and got the 4 bonus points with an assist in game week 7. So I think, like you say, cheap, so reliable for minutes, and interesting, especially when defenders aren't doing a lot this season. I don't think you could really
yeah.
turn your nose up at them.
Also, Naismith has history of doing well for bonus when he was at Luton.
Yeah,
Um, just the way he carries the ball, and as you mentioned, key passes. He might even be on some set pieces as well as he's left-footed. So yeah, I thought Bristol City defense is somewhere where maybe going a bit under the radar. Going forward, it's always tricky with them because they've got so many options in the striker or the wingers. Sykes and Bell though have been ticking along quite nicely. Um, Sykes had that spell last year when he couldn't stop scoring. Um, and they're both in the 40s, Sykes and Bell. So again, two other cheap players that maybe you can punt on a week. For example, they've got Rotherham in game week 10. Stoke in 9, Wednesday in 15. Is 15's the last game week for the boost, isn't
Yeah,
it?
Yeah.
game 15.
Yeah.
I think
So
Bell's
yeah,
interesting, but he's not very consistent with his returns. He's got 3 goals.
yeah,
But with him, he only got max bonus points once. That was in game week 1, where Sykes is a bit more consistent. They came in 4, 5, and 7 there, where he got max bonus points as well
yeah.
as his return. So someone like them that wants a bit more consistency, I think I'd lean more towards the defence. Are they playing about 4 now? I think they're playing
Yeah,
about 4,
Yeah.
aren't
yeah,
they?
they are.
So obviously that might be helping them now then. Anything else regarding them?
No, like I said, I just thought those are 3 teams that we've not really covered, and maybe with some, like, we have views on them that are maybe different to what they are this year. So maybe it's worth keeping an eye on those 3.
Those teams are going to be very similar to what I said to Angus the other day in the chat about Smodics. He's going to be someone who I'd
Yeah,
never own, and he's just going to keep on returning. He's going to be one of them, I think. Right, last one then, and this one is from me. So, in the community, it looks like Game Week 11 is quite popular for the home advantage, because I think a lot of people fall into it quite nicely, or they're building towards it. I think I'm going to play it, but I'm not 100% certain. I'm not a fan of it at all as a boost. I think it's crap. But I haven't got worked my way into it. I've basically got 10 players who are eligible now, who are also good assets. And then it's that or Goalfest. So I think I'm going to play it. But for those who are, because I have seen in the community that people are going to play it, I thought I'd just go through who are some of the best assets who are going to be playing at home in Game Week 11. So if you need to start building towards that now, these are the players that possibly you should be looking at. So very quickly, the teams at home in Game Week 11 are Birmingham, Sunderland, Cardiff, Coventry, Ipswich, Leeds, Leicester, Millwall, Plymouth, QPR, Sheffield Wednesday and Southampton. So I've gone through 4 categories from the stats that basically help with bonus. Okay, so I've gone through the top 10 players. I've used SofaScore, top 10 players, but only included the players that are playing at home. Does that make sense?
yeah.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
I tell
so
you, the research you'll do in the last couple of weeks, Jamie, is
yeah,
top notch,
this is only
mate.
because I didn't know Angus was going to be on the pod today with him just coming back from holiday. This can all sack right off for Sunday, I'm telling you. I'm just going to sit here and just let you two talk. No, I did actually quite enjoy it, actually. I found it quite interesting. But key passes per game then, so out the top 10, 2, 4, 7 of them are from teams who play at home in Game Week 11. So 3.9, Dewsbury Hall, 3.3, Leif Davis, 2.7, Will Smallbone, someone I didn't think of, 2.6, Jack Clark, 2.4, Azaz, Plymouth, 2.3, Rutter, and 2.3, Burns. So I don't think there's many surprises in there. They're all names that we're familiar with and been having, but I think Smallbone obviously plays deeper for Southampton. It's quite interesting, but I think you go there. Azaz at Plymouth, another asset for them, and Rutter, who I'm a big fan of. Big chances created, so 6 for Dewsbury Hall, Broadhead, and Rutter. 5 for James, 4 for Smallbone, and then 4 for that Isahaku at Leicester. Smallbone coming in there again, I think is quite interesting. Rutter in there again, and Dewsbury Hall. And then I went for shots per 90, as Angus stated to me earlier on. Obviously, these impact the bonus, so the more shots people are having, the more chance of getting on target and then getting bonus. So shots per 90 is 4.9 for Chaplin, 4.3 for Whittaker, 4.0 for Somerville, 3.4 for Stansfield, Birmingham, 3.1 for Hardy and Adam Armstrong. So a lot of familiar names in that one. And then lastly, successful dribbles per 90. 3.4 for Clark, 3.0 for Dembele, 2.6 for Kyle Walker-Peters, 2.6 for Stansfield Ignato 2, 2.4 for Somerville, 2.3 for Rutter, 2.3 for Whittaker, and 2.1 for Mumba. So that's all of them. So I think, there's a lot of familiar names in there and a lot of names who crop up in a couple of categories. What are your thoughts regarding some of those assets in game week 11?
I think, like you say, there's not necessarily a lot of big surprises there. It made me quite glad that I've gone with Rutter, though. That's certainly something that I feel a bit better about after that.
No, I think his numbers are good, and he does, as I said with Dan last week, he does well for the bonus as well every week compared to Pro.
Yeah.
I think he just beats him on bonus. But I'm bringing him in this week. He is one of my transfers. I've been saying it for weeks. I'm finally getting in on Leeds because who is it that they play in 11? Bristol City at home. Obviously, we just spoke about them defensively. But I still think with Leeds, the names that are in there, Rutter, James in for the big chances created. Rutter's in there for key passes, shots. Somerville's in there.
Somerville.
And then the dribbles, Somerville, Rutter, Gnotto. They're all in there. So, yeah, I think these assets will be very popular going into game week 11.
Yeah, I mean, Rutter got 3 bonus at the weekend despite being booked. So that sort of tells you the sort of the way he's playing.
And that assist for Anthony was absolutely
Yeah.
fantastic. I could watch that over and over. I thought that would be interesting. Anyone on there? Well, not on there. Who you big on for game week 11, or is it all those names really?
I think you mentioned obviously we talk about Leeds. I think someone like Piero is obviously still absolutely fine. I think you covered most of the Plymouth guys. I think they'll be quite popular with obviously them having a home game and their home record. I don't think you mentioned Broadhead in any of those.
No, Chaplin was on for the shots per 90. Broadhead was on big chances created. He joined top with 6 with Rutter and Dewsbury Hall. But that's quite interesting in terms of Broadhead versus Chaplin. I think we're going to have that all season long, aren't we? We have said it is quite 50-50. I think it's who you prefer, but I'm on Broadhead, but I wouldn't turn my nose up at Chaplin as well.
Yeah, I think those were the main ones sort of that I was thinking of in addition to what you'd said.
But I think in terms of actual fixtures rather than the players, you've got to be looking at Leeds against Bristol City, Leicester at home to Stoke as well, which is quite interesting considering we spoke about additional Leicester assets earlier on. Are you happy to go in that playing in home advantage with just Dewsbury Hall? I think me personally, and how Stoke are playing at the moment, a second Leicester player would definitely be advised. I think that's something I'd be looking to do anyway. My only concern with that is there's no Leicester players other than Dewsbury Hall who are coming up in any of them, apart from Isahaku, who's obviously, you've already explained, just a short sample size, so that's interesting. Plymouth return to Swansea, so I think that's a good fixture on paper, definitely. I'll be backing them. I've gone Hardy. I'll be honest, I wasn't considering Whittaker when I brought Hardy in this week. It was Hardy or Godden, and I went for the cheaper one. But I wish I'd gone Whittaker now. But other than that, I think Ipswich Preston's a good game. Obviously, both being in the top 3 at the moment. I'd still back Ipswich to beat Preston at home. Millwall Hull's a tough one. QPR, you're not going there.
Really?
What, Millwall Hull?
I don't know. I think Preston's probably the worst team that Ipswich could play against
Is in
currently.
defensively solid.
Yeah.
Not as open.
Like, you could end up 0-0, but I do wonder if Preston could do quite well. I've got Broadhead, so it doesn't change anything. But
Sunday they've
Yeah.
got Middlesbrough at home, so that's a good fixture for Jack Clark. I think Birmingham at home to West Brom's a good fixture as well. I'm not really worried about West Brom this season. They
Yeah,
haven't really impressed me. Stansfield,
I think
he's a very good
defensive
player on the eye.
Yeah.
asset.
Cody Drame, that's the other one that you didn't mention. That especially I've got him and already had a bonus off him in the first game. So I think
You've got Dembele, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's doing well on the stats. I think Stansfield, though, when I watched him,
Yeah.
it was a shit game Friday night, but he is very lively. Big fan of his. But yeah, Southampton at home to Rotherham as well. I think that's the big one. Being at home to them, I think they're more than capable of scoring 4 or 5 in that game. My concern with that is now I don't have Adam Armstrong anymore. Which I'm not
neither
too
do I.
bothered at the moment. He went from the right on Saturday. Obviously got a goal, didn't get no bonus. Hopefully something like Che Adams will start going on a little run before that over the next 2 weeks to make him an option maybe. But yeah, small bone even. But I'll be there on my double defence, Walker Peters and Manning. Loving life. But yeah, that's it from me from home advantage, just for those who are thinking about playing that in game week 11. I don't know if that makes it more appealing or made it worse for you. I apologise if it does. Yeah. Shall we get into some Twitter questions?
let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Right. I haven't got them open. Of course I haven't. I did have them open and it always does this. Right, no particular order, just the order I'm looking at. We'll do it as we normally do. I'll come to one of you each. So Dan, I'm going to call... Actually, no, I'm going to go to... No, I'll come to you, Dan. It's not that way round. Right, Rob Pick. See, he's asking questions now. He needs help from us, Dan. He's doing that badly. He needs some help.
But he was on overhaul with me.
Yes, he was, yeah. Right, he said, Dan, need a Doyle replacement and happy to roll this week, so looking for game week 10 onwards. West Brom look the best fixture-wise, but Townsend and Furlong both missing games. Would you go one of them or default to a J for safety? So firstly, would you even look at West Brom assets as replacements?
I've not been impressed with West Brom at all. I can understand maybe defensively, but if Furlong and Townsend aren't playing, then I wouldn't go anywhere near West Brom defence.
Who would be the ideal replacement then? I don't
He said he's looking at 10.
70.
Yeah.
I don't know who else he's got though. So that's the problem.
Probably, as mentioned, maybe a Birmingham defender.
He's got Drame, Hume,
Oh.
Giannoulis and Davis.
Did you talk to him, Angus? Because that's very similar to you.
Yeah.
That's a tough one, isn't it, really?
Ailing?
He won't
Surely
buy
Ailing is one of them.
He won't buy
He won't go
Ailing.
well. That's why he's so far down then.
He'd probably rather leave it empty than literally leave the spot empty than buy Luke Ayling.
I think if he's rolling, it could be worth looking at Leicester this week and just going sideways if he's already there. So if he'd already gone Doyle on overall, he could potentially go another one. But like we said earlier on, there's no massive standouts in terms of defenders, really. Do you just drop down and
just go with the
price?
cheapest centre back? Just go to whoever the cheapest centre back is. Like whoever, if it's Fass and Cody, then just go with one of them.
Yeah, no, we can't really offer more than that because it's just not great picks. So, right, Angus, Ollie, Ash, FPL. Three questions, taking the piss. Right, thanks for your questions, Ollie. Right, Angus, is Dieng a dying Gaffr asset that we should look to move on?
I guess.
I mean,
We had this question.
We've had this quite a few times regarding.
Yeah,
keepers.
We had this question
Yeah.
from Sean Linus last week. and we told him not to bother. And I saw it. He replied to a tweet, and he got in ruddy, and he got a clean sheet. So he did the transfer and
Yeah, I mean,
got
I've talked
points.
already about like Borough being much better than their points total suggested. Like you looked at their performances, you looked at their data, and they were better. So theoretically, they could sort of bounce back a bit. But I mean, at the same time, I totally understand someone looking at it and being like, for example, whether it's someone like Anik, O'Leary, where you're not even having to spend much more on a goalkeeper, that that sort of move could make a lot of sense.
See, I just pretend goalkeepers don't exist now.
Yeah.
I've give up for the first 6 to 7 weeks. I was trying to pick between Hodaki and Dieng, and I'd always get it wrong. But then whoever was getting the most points was only getting like 4 anyway. So now
Yeah.
Hodaki's just staying in goal for me, and what happens? What happens? I just pretend he doesn't exist. Where does ranking Costello rank on priority to transfer out? I'd He's got to
High.
go. Yeah, he's got to go. I can't think of another reason why you'd hold on to him for a bit longer. Like what other fires you've got, unless someone's literally like out for weeks because he's not playing. He's not
Yeah,
starting, is he?
and like I mean, the next two. I mean, I know they've got some theoretically better games coming down the pipeline. Next two are Leicester home and Coventry away. Even if he gets back in the team, are you desperate for that?
Yeah, I just think game gone. Just get him gone and get a defender who's playing. At least you'll get a couple of points if you're lucky. That's how it seems to be at the moment. And then last one from Ollie. Not being impressed with that loser from Watford. Do we look to lose him from our Gaffr teams? See what you did there, Ollie. Very clever, my friend.
Yeah, yeah. He feels a bit of a waste of a midfield spot at the moment.
Feels like he's died down now. He's not
Yeah,
as consistent as he was for the first couple of weeks. So
He didn't play QPR. He's not playing QPR every week when they were absolutely terrible.
that is true. Pemberton. I'll answer this one, shall I? Sorry, Jamie, but is it time to target Stoke at the moment? Now, it's funny you mention that actually because yes, we're crap, and I'm not saying that from a biased point of view. We were rubbish. Like Dan, you watched the game. It was on TV. We were terrible, weren't we? But more importantly, we got Bristol City on away on Saturday, which is a toughish. That's a yellow fixture. Our October is absolutely disgusting. We've got Southampton at home, Leicester away, Sunderland at home, Leeds at home, Middlesbrough away. That is our October. And Middlesbrough probably picked up by the time we get to them at the end of it. So we could basically be in the bottom two by the end of October because that is brutal.
and then after that, you play Cardiff, who we've talked about, Coventry.
Yeah. So, yeah, not ideal. I think looking at us defensively, yeah, I don't see why not. I can't say, no, don't do that. I would. If I had any players playing against Stoke, attackers, I'd definitely be considering the armband on them. So, yeah, I hope that answers that question, Pemberton. FPL Hardman. I don't even know I'm coming to for this, so one of you can just answer it. Dan, because this is about Norwich. Are you concerned about Norwich? Sarah is a point machine, seemingly regardless of fixture, but with goal-reliant row drying up, who were the best cheap mids to replace him for those looking to play midfield dynamos this week? So we've talked about Norwich, haven't we? So we kind of answered that question. But in terms of midfield dynamos this week, who would you be looking at? Like, give me one each, and I'll try and think of one really quick.
Is it cheap, right?
He said cheap, so I'm going to guess cheaper than Sarah. Or I don't know if he
uh,
meant Row.
if I'm going down cheap, like if it has to be sort of remotely close, Dwayne Holmes.
Oh, yeah. Good shout.
Um, I'm gonna go for Bellingham
Who've they got?
against Sheffield
Sheffield
Wednesday.
Wednesday. I'm going to go Aaron Ramsey.
He's injured.
Oh, I thought he was just rest. Did you say that at the beginning?
I'm sure he's injured.
I don't know. I just saw that he missed the midweek game, and I assumed with it being a midweek game and the amount of rotation that had gone round, he was rotated. Well, I'm going to say Aaron Ramsey anyway. And if he's injured, then don't pick Aaron Ramsey. Simple as that. Right, Gaffr Hoops. Leeds are arguably the best attacking team at the moment. Is it time to get a couple of mids / forwards in? And who are the best options? The strength and depth makes me nervous of rotation. Cheers, gents. Both of you can go quick. One midfielder, one striker. Rutter, Somerville. Bam, done.
James Rutter.
I'm gonna go Piero Somerville.
Interesting. Yeah, I think any of them is fine, and I think we will. You'll get rotation, but they can come on. I think we get rotation throughout the season anyway, so I wouldn't worry about that. FPL Red Arrow. Robin has asked recent popular assets to sell: Armstrong, Stacey, Mavididi. So judging by what Angus come up with, don't sell Mavididi.
Yeah, definitely don't sell Mavididi.
Armstrong's interesting now because we were very keen on selling last week, Dan, based on what we've seen. But with them going to a 4-3-3, does that change your opinion in any way?
I don't know. It's hard. It depends what you have planned. For example, if you're playing like home advantage in 11 and they've got Rotherham, maybe a holding because you've got Stoke in between, and Leeds they can score against Leeds. So yeah, I got rid of him for Godden. It's not gone well so far, but it depends if you're going for like maybe a Plymouth striker or you're going for a Leeds striker. Then all depends on who you go for, really. But I wouldn't be in a rush to sell him, but I wouldn't be against it if you want to play. If you know who you want.
We're going to have Adam Armstrong back in our teams for Game Week 11, aren't we, for that Rotherham game after he scores this weekend. Angus, would you say Stacey out of them three? Armstrong,
Yeah,
Stacey,
I mean,
Mavididi?
Dan talked around the other two, and I would say Stacey.
Right, that will do. Mark Dorney has asked Godden or Hardy. No, I'm going to say Hardy because I made
Hardy.
that decision last week.
I went Godden on overhaul, but I would say a Plymouth forward at this point.
Yeah, and I think the money that you're saving as well, like me going from Armstrong all the way down to Hardy, and then I'm be selling John Swift this week. It's just made my life a lot easier when I was very tight on money before that. Right, FPL Commander Barnes. Is he a sell or hold? Any good options to go for? Is he on about Ashley Barnes?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
sell.
definitely a sell. He's injured long term. It is long term, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely sell. Any good options to go for? I think depending who you got, one of the Ipswich forwards, a Plymouth forward. I still think Godden is a good asset. If you go in
Stansfield.
Stansfield, he's someone I really need to own. He does look really exciting. Yeah, there's quite a few there, really, isn't there? So I think that covers that. FPL Trini. Thoughts on the attacking double up of Broadhead and Chaplin for the upcoming fixtures. Now this is interesting because I can't do this because I'm on the keeper and Davis.
Yeah, same.
Would you do both?
I don't hate it.
Yeah, I've had people ask me about it, and I think it's absolutely fine. If you're not, like, say you just have Davis, like you don't have Fladkey, then yeah, I think it's perfectly fine to go with both of them.
Save a lot of money if you went those two and the Plymouth forward, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Right. Surely you'd want a Leeds forward, though.
Yeah, I was about to say, then you can't have Rutter, Jamie.
Good point. Yes, good point. Right, another Ipswich question from the FPL will never stop. Chaplin or Broadhead, is it a complete lottery? So I think we've already said it on. I said it's 50-50. to me. Have any of you got a preference at the moment?
Not
Not
really.
really.
So
Or Broadhead.
yeah, I hope that out to you there. It is, yeah, just flip a coin at home. We'll go heads Chaplin, tails Broadhead. Let us know how you got on.
Yeah.
Mouse Stars, is it time to move these assets on? Number 1, Ugbo. I'm going to say yes, because I'm selling in this. Don't laugh, Angus, I've got him. I'll be selling in this week. Manning, I think if you're in a position where you haven't got any fires to put out, I'd have sold him weeks ago if I hadn't.
Now it's almost come all the way back around wherever he gets back in the team. He's got, I think you don't want him this week, but then he's got like Stoke and Rotherham.
That is true. But
He'll get booked though against Leeds,
Yeah, that's
so
true.
he
He's on
won't play
40
Stoke.
hours. He'll get booked against. No, what you'll do is you'll be going to play home advantage in 11, and he'll get booked against Stoke in 10.
I think my conclusion of owning him at the moment is, 1, I've got no one better to go to, really, and 2, everyone, well, not everyone, a lot of people have him anyway, so when he doesn't do anything, he's not really hurting me that much.
Yeah.
And Mouse Stars has also said Stacey, so Dan covered Norwich earlier on. Any good replacements? They have 2 free transfers, so just name me a striker and a defender. I'm going to say Ugbo's price range, a Plymouth or Ipswich forward. So Hardy, Whittaker,
Yep.
Chaplin or Broadhead. And then as a Manning
Or
replacement.
Stansfield.
Yes. Or as a Manning replacement. I generally don't know.
Luke Ayling, just for the vibes.
Yeah.
You'll see him up the pitch all the time, and that'll make you feel better.
Yeah. Or, like we've mentioned earlier on, like, your Cardiff, Bristol Cities, if you want to go all the way down for price, do that. FC has asked, top 100 but no chips left. You mean boosts? What's a good realistic target by the game week 16 refresh? I think I wouldn't put a number on it as in points. I definitely wouldn't do that. I don't know. You've seen how powerful the boosts are. I think I'd start worrying about where you are overall going into the last set. Like, you want to be in touching distance then. But I think someone easily could be like 300 points behind now and do that in boosts over the remaining 6 if they've used them all so far. Would you agree? Not to worry about overall rank yet?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Right, FPL Frog, I think this is one of the last ones. Given defenders a shit this season, any preference between goal fest and home advantage? And if so, when would you look to use them? PS, I'm not sure how shit defenders actually are, but I'm blinded by my own team just conceding 6 to a newly promoted side. So yeah, he had the pleasure of his team losing 6-2 to Plymouth. Right, goal fest or home advantage? Which one do you prefer?
Home advantage if you fall into it. If you have to make a bunch of moves towards it, then goal first.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, definitely. What is it, 5 points a goal for goal fests?
Yeah.
So what, you're hoping for an extra 25 plus points?
Yeah.
Where with home advantage, was it 1.5 multiplier?
Yeah.
So it's not great, is it really?
It's pretty similar, isn't it?
It's going to be very close, yeah. Which now makes me want to play Golfest. But we'll see. I don't know. I know I'm in an okay position because the teams that I like the assets from are all playing at home, and I have them anyway at the moment. So it could be literally I make the decision on game week 11 deadline. I'm that comfortable with my team at the moment. Angus, Dan, there's another question, isn't there?
Yes.
From Kyle Stoke Gaffr. I can't see his tweets because they're protected, so I can't read it out. So I'll let one of you two do it.
He said, with rotation an absolute minefield in the Championship now and games going past 100 minutes, should we prioritise 90-minute men over the usual data stuff?
I think rotation. I think it's quite recent, like because the midweek, isn't it? I think there's 7
Yeah.
fixtures. We've got another one coming up.
There is another midweek.
Before
Yeah.
the international break. I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting that much rotation. Yeah, there was.
Yeah, I think some teams went quite far with it.
Plymouth took the mick, didn't they? Really?
Yeah, the Plymouth one.
Get absolutely smashed by Bristol City by rotating the whole team nearly, and then bring them back in and go and smash Norwich. So I mean, did it work out? I don't know. 3 points from 6. I don't know. I haven't really noticed mass rotation in the lead up before this midweek. Have you? Like the odd few?
Yeah, not sort of massive.
I think mainly it was the big teams settling, getting the team settled really more than anything, especially during the transfer window. So I wouldn't worry about that. In terms of going over 100 minutes, I can't quite recall how many have gone over 100. It doesn't seem like it's been that bad recently.
They got 5 subs.
Yeah. I think
Yeah, I mean, I think the minutes thing can become a little bit of a double-edged sword, because you can look at it as like, oh yeah, you know, so you've got more time to return, for example. But then, for example, like, you know, defenders have got more time to concede. So it can work both ways. You know, do you want a defender who actually goes off like after like 75, 80 minutes instead?
Yeah, no, very true. I think you're right there. Is that all the questions?
I think so. Like, you were the one with the questions.
Yeah, I think that is it. And I think that's a wrap of the pod then. So we've been going now just under an hour and 25. So in terms of time, this format really isn't making a difference. But I do think we are covering a lot of things in a different way rather than just reviewing the games, because people are here for the Gaffr stuff more than that. So quite happy with that. Before we do go, we will be back to normal now. Now Angus has decided to join us again after a selfish holiday in the middle of football season. We will be recording Sunday night, won't we? To review game week 9. Is it midweek next week?
Yeah.
Midweek games. So is game week 10 next midweek?
Yeah.
Then 11 we can. Yes, we will be back recording Sunday night because of the short turnaround before midweek games. If you have enjoyed this podcast, please do give it a like, subscribe and all that bollocks. I'll just keep asking every week. Those who quote tweet with a nice little message will be forever in like the Gaffr Listeners Hall of Fame, let's call it. So Darren and Adi are in there. Get yourselves in there. I'll say thank you to everybody as well who does do that, other than John Jacobson, and I'll just ignore him. Because I just like being a dick to John, because he is a dick. But yeah, thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.